The Princess and the Frog. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful young princess. She was known throughout the land for her kindness, grace, and beauty. However, the thing she treasured most was not a grand crown or her silk dresses. It was a small golden ball her father, the king, had given her when she was a little girl. This golden ball was her favorite toy, and she often carried it wherever she went. One bright sunny Sunday, the princess wandered into the palace gardens, which were filled with vibrant flowers, fluttering butterflies, and birds singing melodious tunes. Beyond the gardens lay a deep, dark forest, which the princess loved to explore. At the edge of the forest was a sparkling pond, its water so clear that you could see the pebbles at the bottom and the fish swimming happily. The princess often came to this spot to play with her golden ball, throwing it high into the air and catching it again. On this particular day, the princess was in high spirits. She tossed her golden ball into the air higher than ever before, watching it glitter like the sun. But oh no, she threw it too high, and when it came back down, she missed it. The ball bounced once, twice, and rolled straight into the pond. With a loud plop, it disappeared beneath the water. The princess gasped in horror and ran to the edge of the pond. She peered into the water, but the ball was nowhere to be seen. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she began to cry. Oh no, my precious golden ball. It's lost forever, she sobbed. Just then, she heard a strange croaking sound. Ribbit, ribbit, why are you crying, dear princess? The princess looked around in surprise and saw a small green frog sitting on a lily pad near the edge of the pond. You wouldn't understand, she sniffled. I've lost my golden ball, and it's the most precious thing I own. The frog tilted his head and said, Perhaps I can help you. I could fetch your ball from the bottom of the pond, but what will you give me in return? The princess frowned. Anything you wish, dear frog. I'll give you jewels, fine clothes, or even my crown. But the frog shook his head. I don't want jewels or clothes. What I want is to be your friend. I want to eat from your plate, drink from your cup, and sleep on your pillow. If you promise me this, I will bring back your golden ball. The princess hesitated. The thought of sharing her life with a slimy frog was not appealing, but she wanted her golden ball back so desperately that she agreed. Yes, yes, I promise. Anything you want. Just bring me my ball. The frog smiled, or as close to a smile as a frog could manage. And with a graceful leap, he dove into the pond. The princess watched as he disappeared beneath the surface, creating ripples in the water. A few moments later, the frog emerged, holding the golden ball in his little web hands. Here you go, dear princess, he said, tossing the ball to her. The princess was overjoyed. Thank you, she exclaimed, clutching the ball tightly. Without another thought, she turned and ran back to the palace, leaving the frog behind. Wait, princess, the frog called after her. You promised to be my friend. The princess didn't look back. That evening, As the princess sat down to dine with her family, there was a knock at the door. The servant entered and said, Your Highness, there is a visitor at the door. Who could it be at this hour? The princess asked, puzzled. The servant hesitated. It's a frog, Your Highness. He says you made him a promise. The princess's cheeks turned bright red. She had hoped the frog would forget all about her promise. But there he was, waiting at the palace door. The king noticed her discomfort and asked, What is this about, my dear? Reluctantly, the princess explained what had happened by the pond. The king frowned. A promise is a promise, he said firmly. You must keep your word, even if it is to a frog. With great reluctance, the princess nodded. Bring him in, she said softly. The doors opened, and the frog hopped into the grand dining hall. The sight of the tiny creature in such a majestic palace was almost comical. The princess sighed as he leaped onto the table and sat beside her plate. Thank you for letting me join you, princess, the frog said cheerfully. May I share your meal? Though she found it disgusting, the princess pushed her plate toward the frog. He ate with gusto, and when he had finished, he said, I'm quite thirsty. May I drink from your cup? The princess grimaced but handed him her cup. The frog drank deeply and then smiled. Ah, that was delightful. Now, princess, I am very tired. Where is my bed? The princess was horrified. You don't mean to sleep in my bed, do you? She exclaimed. The frog nodded. You promised, princess. Remembering her father's words, the princess reluctantly carried the frog to her bedroom. She placed him gently on her pillow and climbed into bed, staying as far from him as possible. That night, as the moonlight streamed through her window, something magical happened. When the clock struck midnight, the princess heard a strange sound. She looked and saw the frog glowing with a soft golden light. Before her eyes, the frog transformed into a handsome prince. The princess gasped in shock. Who are you? She whispered. The prince smiled warmly. I am a prince who was cursed by a wicked witch. Only the promise of a kind heart and the act of true friendship could break the spell. You, dear princess, have set me free. The princess blushed, feeling both amazed and ashamed of her earlier behavior. I'm sorry for treating you poorly, she said. The prince forgave her, and they talked for hours, sharing stories and laughter. Over time, the princess and the prince grew close and fell deeply in love. When the time came, they were married in a grand celebration that lasted for days. The prince and princess ruled their kingdom with wisdom and kindness, and they always remembered the lesson they had learned. Promises must be kept, and true friendship can change lives in the most unexpected ways. And so they lived happily ever after. I hope you enjoyed the story.